Hi, it's Danielle. So, for our second November newsletter, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my favorite books. I firmly believe that if it's worth learning, it's worth having a book or 10 about it. So, I'd like to show you some of my favorite books for calligraphy, illustration, embroidery, crochet, kind of all the cool creative things that I'm doing. So, rather than hold up the books to the camera, which I've done before, but it's a little shaky, I have you guys looking at my Amazon page. So you may not know this, but I have a page on Amazon. It's amazon.com/shop/Rothburns Creative, where you can buy all my favorite picks for books, supplies, resources, all of that. So it's really great if you've ever taken a class with me, you're interested in it, and you're like, ooh, what was that pen we used? It's probably on here, shipping with Amazon Prime. So let me take you on a little bit of a tour. So when we first open up, you'll see there's my hands. And then it's all organized by category. So I have some of my favorite organization tools, things for coloring, brush calligraphy, miscellaneous crafts, watercolors, Cricut, embroidery, foiling, embossing, pointed pen. This is actually most of the supply list for my classes that I purchased from, hand lettering, and chalk and paint markers. So really kind of running the gamut. My printer's on here so you can see what everything is. But I want to just start by looking at these books. So like I said, books are super important. At my classes, I bring at least 3 books with me to every class. Almost all of the books on this list are books that I personally own. And if I don't own it, I've bought it for someone as a gift. So I've seen all of these. I think they're fantastic. So let's dive into why they're my favorites. So the first book that I would recommend is this Mastering Modern Calligraphy. I'm going to open this in a new tab. This Mastering Modern Calligraphy book just came out a couple weeks ago, and it is by Molly Super Thorpe. She is an amazing calligrapher, mostly pointed pen, so that's kind of the view on here. But what makes this book amazing is, one, it is spiral bound, which is great. It lays flat. You can really use it. Two, similar to her other modern calligraphy book, she has 20 ways to draw every letter. But what she does that's a little different in this book is she also has fully formed alphabets. So if you're someone who likes to see a bunch of letters and choose your favorite, she has that. Or if you're someone who just wants to learn a full alphabet, she has that too. So there's a really good mix between those two things. And of course, it's gorgeous. So you can see she has warm-ups, she has the alphabets, talks about strokes, a little bit on flourishing, and then she has all of these different alphabets. So it's just a really good guideline. And I love that you can see the range from like the super romantic looking ones and traditional to the really funky and then, kind of playful. So it's just a really nice range in this book. If you want to do pointed pen at all, she has amazing advice on things to do and just things to learn. So this is a really nice book. Again, recently came out already. I just saw it, like 22 reviews. So it's really great. So this is one I would recommend. So going back to this list, this one has been one of my favorites for a long time. If you are at all a markers girl like I am, this is great. It's the Ultimate Brush Lettering Guide. It's by Peggy Dean, who has a bunch of really wonderful Skillshare classes. Skillshare is an online class forum. There's thousands of classes there. If you've never heard of it before and you want to give it a shot, I actually have a Skillshare class up on how to make my calligraphy silhouettes. And on my website is a link to 2 months free access to my class, but also all of the others. So you can check out Peggy's as well. So what I love about this book is it has the 8 basic strokes, which I use in my classes. And then it also has 20 ways to draw every letter. But these are a little bit more modern and funky. So this is like made for someone who loves brush calligraphy. And you can see her kind of style coming across here. The other thing, which I guess we're not going to get to see in this preview, is that when she has her 20 ways to draw every letter, she actually has stroke guidelines. So it shows you what to do first, which I always find super helpful in my books. So let's see, here's a couple of examples. So here's one of the pages from the books, showing the different styles. This is for bounce lettering. So this is a good one. Now, one thing I will recommend to you is if you buy any of these books, pick up some tracing paper. Don't write in the book. This will be good to help you practice. This modern calligraphy book is also by Molly Super Thorpe. It's the one that I recommended for a long time. It actually predates almost every other book on my list. It's fantastic. A lot of what's in here, though, is in the new Mastering Modern Calligraphy book. So if you only wanted to buy one book, I would say get this first one. So this next book is The Guide to Incorporating Modern Flourishes by Jaren Chang. I love this book. This is a workbook. I accidentally wrote in mine, so it's covered in purple pen, which is why I say tracing paper. But what I love about this is it's based on copper plates. If you're at all interested in traditional copper plate style calligraphy, this is a good way to kind of see that with our flourishes and embellishments. And he has this, do's and don'ts page in the book that I think is absolutely incredible. And then he goes through, I love how he goes through the different shapes of flourishes, and then he does an entire alphabet. So he shows you how to put this with every letter, again, based on that copper plate alphabet, and then how to really make this your own. He also has some composition tips, and these you can actually trace them on how you can put your flourishes together. So this is a really good primer. I found it super helpful and I started bringing it to my classes. So these books that I'm talking about, like these first three, are the ones that I bring to almost all of my classes. So I highly, highly recommend those. Now this was also spiral, and this other one here is pretty similar in style, but really chock full of modern calligraphy techniques by Leslie Tao. This is one that I bought for someone for a gift. If you like workbook style where you can write in things or tracing paper in things, this one is really great. It's beautiful, it's comprehensive. So this is a really nice one to get. For a while they were being sold as a bundle. I'm not sure if that's still the case. But this is a really nice book as well. And again, none of these are really breaking the bank. You don't need to spend a lot of money to have a fantastic hobby. This brush lettering from A to Z is by Emma White. She's known for her watercolor lettering. She does a watercolor camp as well. This is one that I've seen. It's great, it has tons of resources. Can't go wrong with that one either. I also want to point out this brush lettering practice paper. So I used to always recommend Rhodia dot paper, and I still do. It's on the list. But what I like about this brush lettering practice paper is it has all of the guidelines that you need. So it has our three main guidelines that you'll remember from kindergarten, but then it also has room for that descender line, like when we're doing letters like G's and J's and things like that. It's also super smooth. So I've started using this in my private lessons a little bit more, and I really, really like it. The only thing is that the pages do tear out of the pad, so you just want to make sure you have a folder on hand. But it's good too if you ever want to trace because it's not too thick. So this is really nice paper that I've really started transitioning to using more. So for hand lettering, which is, modern calligraphy's favorite sister, I have these two books that I'm obsessed with. So this has tons and tons of full alphabets for hand lettering. So there's both serif and sans serif as well as script styles in here, just because a ton of inspiration and just really beautiful styles. I brought this home and I showed it to my nephew at our last holiday, and he was able to go through the book, pick an alphabet that looked like each member of the family, and make place cards for our dinner just from this one book alone because he had the resource with the full alphabets. So that's really nice. Not every book does have full alphabets, so that was really cool. So this one's great, super kid friendly. And then the other one that I really love for hand lettering is this little blue one, and I believe it has 100 alphabets. But this one is also really, really cool, and it has very playful and innovative alphabets, and it's just fun to just flip through. You can get some really nice inspiration from here. And even if you're not interested in hand lettering, if you're just like, I want all calligraphy all the time, there's some really nice script fonts in here as well for you to take a look at. So again, super heavy into the inspiration. Love this ampersand. Looks very Jessica Hish to me. And then it continues on. So it just really has, you can see tons of different styles. Also super accessible for kids and adults alike. See if there's any pictures on here of one of the alphabets. No pictures yet, but it's really, really nice. And then, it's on sale for only $12. So again, not breaking any banks, but this is what I started bringing to my hand lettering classes. Both kids and adults have been loving that book. This complete book of chalk lettering was the book that I really learned hand lettering from back in the dark ages. 3 years ago when I was learning, we didn't have this many books to choose from. So this one's really great. Valerie McKeon, absolutely gorgeous chalk lettering. She has some really nice coloring books as well for chalk lettering. But what I like about it is it really explains hand lettering, the serif, the baseline, things like that. So she does a really good job of talking about terminology and also just ways to pump up your lettering. So whether it's adding banners, she has a really nice banner page in here, or if you want to do chalk, how to do shading, how to add little illustrations, things like that. So if you have any interest at all in chalk lettering, this is a fantastic book to help you get started. That's another one I really love and I return to a lot. This one, this A to Z, doesn't have all full alphabets, but it has really interesting pictures of like signs and things like that. So really cool, has a lot of vintage lettering. My beveled style that I've been doing, my jewels, actually was inspired by this book. But it's nice because you see like real pictures of real signs. Why is it all the front matter? Here we go. Real pictures of real signs to get inspired by. So, cross cultures, really interesting, different looks in here. Pictograms. So if you're just like, I want to look at a bunch of cool pictures of stuff and get inspired, this book really kind of has that and, can show some different alphabets. So here's some more examples of just like some different kind of things that are in here. So I find this book very inspiring. This was one of my birthday books that Brian got me last year. So moving on, Good Type had a book about lettering. 28 different letterers share their stories. In Progress by Jessica Hish. She is a very well-known, well-regarded hand lettering artist. Done a ton of book covers. And this book really just goes in depth in her process, including how she digitizes, which anyone who's interested in digitizing, it's super helpful information. So then transitioning to some illustration books. If you're interested at all in drawing flowers, this botanical line drawing book by Peggy Dean, but also the Modern Florals and Floral by Hand by Allie Kay are really great. What I like about the Allie Kay books is that she not only has visual step-by-step instructions, but also like will write out in a paragraph, what each step is. So let's see if we can look inside this guy. But it shows it, really clearly. And the reason I selected this Florals by Hand, so this is the sequel to the Modern Florals book. And this one has more about composition. So this one has word art, different arrangements, and more flowers. So I really recommend both of them. They're both gorgeous. But if you want to do more about composing, she goes into more depth in compositions in this book. And I was really lucky. Last year, I was able to take in-person workshops with both Peggy Dean and Allie Kay. So really cool being able to like learn from their process. This other In Bloom book is really nice because it has some flowers that just aren't covered in the other books. And it has a lot from like Australia and really like this global bend of like flowers around the world. So that's also really cool. Whereas this botanical line drawing one's a little bit more like doodle style, which is also the same for this 20 ways to draw everything. So this one is like all doodles all the time, but really cute inspiration. So like I took this book and from it, I did a whole series of like fruit and I drew a shark and just kind of helped me get more confident in my drawing abilities without feeling like, it had to be absolutely perfect all of the time. So you can see there's just tons of stuff here. It's actually a combination of several books in this series. And this one, again, like predates the others. Lisa Condon is one of the illustrators for this book. She's fantastic. Just has this really fun, whimsical style in like a folk art kind of vein. So just tons of inspiration in here if you just want something to flip through to be inspired and to copy. A little less on the instruction than the others. This Imagine the Forest book, I'm like obsessed with it. It is a folk art. So it talks about that folk art style of, creating shapes within, drawing florals inside it. It's more boxy. It uses a doodling kind of base. And so you can do this with drawing or you can do this with gouache or watercolor. Inspired one of my absolute favorite series of prints that I created. And it just has this really beautiful whimsical style. So if you're at all interested in that folk art kind of look, this is a really great one. And I like too that she has these little swatches as well. So this is a really nice look at kind of what that could be. and has it broken down in a really fun way. So this was one that I bought for myself on a whim, and I was very glad I did. And it's a similar one to this folk art and beyond book. It's a very similar style. And then as far as drawing goes, this 50 ways to draw your beautiful ordinary life. If you've never heard of Flow magazine, go look it up. It's fantastic for inspiration, for designers. My favorite illustrator is Flora Waycott, and she has several different tutorials in this book, 50 Ways to Draw Your Beautiful Ordinary Life, but she's also a regular contributor to Flow and some of their other materials. But Flow is a magazine from the Netherlands, and they're all about paper. If you love paper, you're going to love them. And this book, does not disappoint. Has tons of tutorials, how to draw cups, how to draw things that you can find and be inspired by your surroundings, instead of necessarily, having to be inspired by, flowers or pictures or things like that. So this was nice. It really helped me get out of my comfort zone with like putting patterns on things, and just kind of going for it. So if you're a bullet journaler at all, I always recommend this book because it just gives you ideas for different spreads and really finding inspiration from, around you, instead of kind of going outside for it. I also really love this color mixing companion going into some of the watercolor stuff. So if you don't know color theory at all, this is a good place to start. It's also really good even if you know color theory because it just has tons of inspiration. It also has templates, which I didn't realize when I bought the book. You can also download them for free from her website. So it's great because you can learn how to play with color with paint, with like paper chips, with all tons of different stuff. You could go to the hardware store and get paint chips and you can make something with it using this stuff. So I just love her style, and her Instagram videos are just mesmerizing. So this was a book that I bought really because I liked her stuff, but then I ended up using one of these projects with my nephews. We even did it with marker. I mean, this is acrylic paint here. We even did it with marker and it worked just fine, but teaching them about color mixing and how to make gradients. So we actually did this project right here. Instead of doing it with paint, we did it with our markers, and same template, 3 completely different things. So this was a really fun one to do with the kids and to revisit on my own after. This watercolor section, Jenna Rainey, gorgeous watercolor. She has everyday watercolors, which show you like how to get great in watercolor with 30 everyday exercises. And then finally her Watercolor Flowers book came out. I definitely pre-ordered this one. Very, very excited. Had to have it that day. And she just does gorgeous things with florals. So kind of really an inspiration for this loose floral style that's been very popular, very romantic. So if you're interested at all in that and these gorgeous color bleeds and laying things down, this is a great book for just learning how to mix your paint and create really gorgeous flowers from reference. So I guess that was our little sample there. But you can see more in these pictures. So again, you have the composition and then showing so how to start with our sketch and turn it into a flower. So really nice for creating these detailed watercolors. So those are great there. This modern watercolor, not quite as in-depth, but also really good intro. And then I also included some other books here, Gouache, some more opaque version of watercolor. This kind of talks about how to use it. This 100 Days of Drawing, I didn't talk about before. It's a sketchbook, but the artist who does it, she goes by the name August Wren on Instagram. She is a big gouache person. So even though this is like for drawing, like to draw in the book, I actually think of this more as a gouache book because it just has like these different prompts and different ideas and inspiration. But gouache is more opaque, so it just has that really nice style. You can like paint on top of it. So this book helps with that as well. And then looking at the embroidery ones here, so this is the gouache style. So you can see, again, I've mentioned it with the folk art. You can kind of see some of those similarities. This is your little close-up of that. So this is really nice as well. But yeah, the embroidery, these are the ones that I recommend for embroidery. I have this embroidery step-by-step guide. It was really helpful in the beginning when I was just figuring out my stitches. So this is a good like reference guide. You can see one of the pages here just kind of goes through and just shows you what they look like in real life, which is really helpful. Anything with good pictures is going to be good. So this is more of a reference tool for you. And then this Hoop Dreams is a little different. It's more patterns and things like that. So if you just want to look for some really interesting projects, this has some really, really pretty, really modern styles to choose from. So, you know, there's some calligraphy. No wonder I like this book. And this is called Brick Stitch. Totally changed how I do my embroidery now. Um, so just really helpful tidbits and just really super cute projects. You know, you don't need to do calligraphy. You don't need to draw to be able, excuse me, do really pretty embroidery projects. And this book kind of walks you through some of that and a little bit about like why we like different materials. So this goes into that, not only how to use hoops, but how to use other things as well. Miniatures are part of here. And then another book kind of in that same vein is this Thread Folk, also just gorgeous modern projects that you can choose from. And then this dot journaling book, if you are interested in bullet journaling, it just has some information about spreads. This is one that I have. I don't do a lot of bullet journaling because I get a little too precious with my spreads and I want to keep them pristine. But I like to do it for like big ticket items. So I have like a spread for, you know, when I reach a certain number of Instagram followers. So you'll see every 500 followers, hasn't happened in a while, I will post and I'll color in, you know, something else on this spread. But this is just really nice if you're new to bullet journaling and you're not sure how to use it or what it is. This is a good book that just kind of helps give you ideas on spreads, not so much for the creative part, but more for like, how do I organize this information? You know, why do I use a dot journal? You know, how can I make it pretty? Not too many pictures on this preview, but this kind of shows a little bit about that. So as I mentioned, I love books. I went through a lot of books. So these are the different books. Again, they are all on this Amazon storefront that I have. In full disclosure, I do get a very small referral fee if you use this page here. But mostly I just wanted to share them with you because I think that books are just a wonderful, great way to start and great way to get familiar with, you know, what you're doing and have just really good ideas. So feel free to take a look through this stuff. I also have some miscellaneous craft. I've been super into scratch art lately. I don't know why. So all this info is here. But yeah, so that's where we're at. I hope that this tutorial was helpful. I have a feeling it went way longer than I planned, but that's okay. If you have any questions about the books or if you have them and you want to share information, you love it, hate it, let me know. Or if there's anything you think I'm missing, please let me know about that too. But as I mentioned, you know, when I made this switch to bi-weekly newsletters, I want this to be as valuable for you as possible. I get asked about favorite books all the time. So I thought this would be a fun thing. If you have any ideas for future tutorials, anything you're super curious about, please let me know. I want to make this as helpful and informational for you as possible. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, bye.